There's a road tucked away in the dense shadows of an ancient forest, a road where few dare to linger. They call it Black Hollow Lane. Locals whisper about a chilling sound, soft at first, like the faintest cry carried by the wind, but growing louder with every passing second. A woman's sobs echo through the night, piercing the silence like a warning, or perhaps a plea. But no one has ever seen her. The stories? They say she's searching for something or someone, lost to her forever. The people who've heard her cries speak of an unshakable fear, a presence that follows them long after they've left. So what really happened on Black Hollow Lane? Is it just an old legend designed to frighten wanderers? Or does the truth hide in the darkest corners of this forgotten road? Tonight, we'll unravel the secrets buried here. Secrets some would rather leave undisturbed. Deep in the heart of Millfield, a quiet town bordered by an endless expanse of towering evergreens, lies a road that few dare to mention, Black Hollow Lane. To most, it's just a winding stretch of asphalt shrouded by dense forest canopies. But to the townsfolk, it's a place of foreboding, a path where whispers carry warnings and headlights fail to pierce the darkness. The stories all share one chilling detail. Anyone who lingers here after midnight doesn't return the same, or worse, doesn't return at all. Travelers who've passed through recount strange encounters. Shadowy figures standing on the roadside, headlights flickering without explanation, and the unshakable feeling of being watched. But it's the cries that terrify them most. A woman's mournful sobbing, carried on the wind like a sorrow too heavy to bear. Those who hear it say the sound follows them, growing louder until it feels as though it's inside their very bones. Where did this legend begin? The earliest account dates back to 1948, when Eleanor Drake, a local schoolteacher, vanished one stormy night. The story goes that Eleanor fled her home after a heated argument with her husband, her screams echoing through the rain as she disappeared into the woods. Her body was never found, but her abandoned car was discovered on Black Hollow Lane the next morning. Some say Eleanor still roams the road, her spirit trapped, endlessly searching for the life she lost. Others whisper that something happened to her that night, something so terrible that it stained the road forever. What's certain is this: from the moment Eleanor vanished, Black Hollow Lane has become a place no one dares to tread after sundown. For decades, Black Hollow Lane has been the backdrop of encounters that defy explanation. Those brave or foolish enough to venture there after dark have all returned with chilling tales, if they returned at all. Take the story of 4 friends from Millfield High School in the summer of 1973. It was meant to be a night of harmless exploration. Armed with flashlights and teenage bravado, they decided to see for themselves if the stories about the road were true. It started innocently enough. The rain was light, their laughter filling the air as they cruised down the narrow lane. But as the clock crept closer to midnight, the atmosphere shifted. The rain grew heavier, their headlights barely cutting through the fog. Then came the sound, a low, faint cry. At first, they thought it was a trick of the storm, but the cries grew louder, echoing around them, until it sounded like the wailing of a woman standing right outside their car. The driver, panicked, slammed on the brakes. When they stopped, their car wouldn't start again. Hours later, a search party found them. The car was still parked in the middle of the lane, headlights dim and battery dead. 3 of the friends were terrified but unharmed. The driver, however, was unconscious, clutching the steering wheel with a look of sheer terror frozen on his face. He refused to speak of what he saw that night. He never even set foot on Black Hollow Lane again. But the mystery doesn't stop there. An old article buried in the archives of the Millfield Gazette reveals an unsettling pattern. In the 1950s alone, 3 separate individuals disappeared near the same stretch of road. The circumstances were eerily similar. Each vanished during a storm, and all were last seen traveling alone. None of them were ever found. Then, there's the account of a local hunter in 1986. He claimed he heard soft sobs while walking through the woods near the lane, but when he turned, he saw nothing, until he noticed faint footprints in the mud, trailing behind him. The prints led to a small clearing, where they abruptly stopped as if whoever or whatever had made them had simply vanished. Can all these accounts be dismissed as folklore? Or is there something far more terrifying at play? Imagine, for a moment, finding yourself alone on Black Hollow Lane late at night, the rain tapping against your windshield, the faint rustle of leaves in the trees, the distant roll of thunder. And then you hear it, the cry. It's soft at first, almost too faint to notice. But then it grows louder, raw with anguish, and it feels as though the sound is coming from inside the car itself. Your heart pounds, your hands grip the steering wheel, and you can't shake the feeling that if you were to look into the rearview mirror, someone might be sitting behind you. These stories aren't just tales whispered in the dark. They're pieces of a puzzle that points to something unexplainable, something tied to the night Eleanor Drake disappeared. The year was 1992, a stormy autumn night like so many others. David Black, a long-haul truck driver, was passing through Millfield on his usual route. He wasn't superstitious, and he'd driven Black Hollow Lane countless times before without incident. But this night would be different. According to David, the rain was coming down in sheets, his windshield wipers barely keeping up. As he rounded a sharp bend on the road, his headlights illuminated a figure standing motionless in the middle of the lane. A woman. Her pale dress clung to her as if soaked through, her head tilted slightly downward, hair hanging limp and wet over her face. David slammed on the brakes, tires screeching as his truck veered sharply to avoid her. The vehicle skidded off the road, crashing through the underbrush and coming to a halt against a tree. When he came to, he found himself alone in the cab of his truck. Dazed but unhurt, he reached for his phone to call for help. But then he heard it, a whisper, faint, almost drowned out by the pounding rain. It sounded like a woman's voice, calling his name. Terrified, David grabbed his dashcam, desperate to confirm he wasn't imagining things. When he replayed the footage later, his blood ran cold. The grainy video showed a fleeting image, a woman standing in the middle of the road, staring directly into the camera with hollow eyes. Seconds later, she was gone. When police arrived on the scene, they found no trace of the woman David described. No footprints, no evidence that anyone had been there. They dismissed his account, blaming it on fatigue or a trick of the light. But David was adamant. He never drove Black Hollow Lane again. To this day, Black Hollow Lane remains shrouded in mystery. Travelers still report strange encounters, glimpses of shadowy figures in their rearview mirrors, the haunting sound of footsteps trailing them, and of course, the cries of a woman lost to time. Local authorities have no explanations. They chalk up the sightings to urban legends, weather conditions, or the overactive imaginations of those who've heard too many ghost stories. But what about the dashcam footage? The unexplained disappearances? The consistent accounts spanning decades? Eleanor Drake's story continues to haunt Millfield, her sorrow woven into the very fabric of Black Hollow Lane. Was she a victim of tragedy, forever tied to the place she lost her life? Or is there something about the road itself that holds a darker secret? We may never know. But one thing is certain. If you ever find yourself driving through Black Hollow Lane on a rainy night and you hear the sound of someone crying, don't stop, because some questions are better left unanswered. Strange events like these always leave us wondering. Have you ever experienced something unexplainable? Maybe it was a shadow in the corner of your eye, a voice you couldn't place, or a moment that sent chills down your spine. Share your story in the comments below. Who knows, it might be our next tale to uncover. If the story kept you on edge, don't keep it to yourself. Give this video a thumbs up to let us know you want more haunting tales. And hit that subscribe button to join us for our next journey into the unexplained. You won't want to miss what's coming next.